many of you had that one class in school that you absolutely dreaded going to? You took extra time at your locker, walked as slowly as possible, and had to force yourself to walk through the doorway. Then you spent all of class in utter confusion or absolute boredom and stumbled out like a zombie. Yeah, we all had those classes. The reason those classes were so awful was because our teachers were ineffective teachers. As a longtime student and sufferer myself, it pains me to see my siblings and little cousins go through the exact same thing. It also makes me consider my future children and the quality of their education. So many ineffective teachers are clogging up our school systems and ruining the education of our youth. These ineffective teachers need to be fired, regardless of their contracts or tenure, in order to improve and preserve fine education. First, you may be wondering what an ineffective teacher is. According to Lokeman Magar, a writer and teacher herself, an ineffective teacher is one who has no long-term educational goals. They focus on teaching, not whether or not their students are learning. When the end of the year comes, the bad grades are blamed on unintelligent students and their laziness, not on the fact that the teaching itself has failed. My 8th grade math teacher was an ineffective teacher. We took a test at the end of 7th grade to see whether the next year we would be in 8th grade math or freshman algebra. I was in algebra, and it was referred to unaffectionately as smart math. Every day, we walked into that class, sat down, and talked for at least 10 minutes before he noticed we were there. Then he meandered up to the board and wrote out the homework problems from the day before, and asked for answers. Well, the same 5 people understood everything, so they gave the answers. And if any of us asked a question, he'd explain it one time and then move on. Once that humiliation was over, we trucked ourselves back to his desk and gave him our homework grade, and then he assigned us new problems to be done by the end of class. Anything we didn't get done was homework for the next day. He then sat there the rest of class, checking his email, picking out basketball uniforms for his team, or talking on his cell phone. This is serious. He would then periodically complain about how we weren't paying attention and didn't get our homework done. Our parents called in and complained to him, they complained to the principal. We weren't learning anything. We were supposed to be the smart kids, and we were pulling B's and C's in that class. When that year was finally over, I had full confidence that high school was going to be better. And then I met my Spanish teacher. I learned more about her husband in the first week of class than I did about Spanish the entire year. She told us stories about how lazy he was, or this funny thing he did. We talked about how she went swimming with her dogs at 4 in the morning. We watched popular Disney movies, in Spanish, of course, and talked about slutty prom dresses. And she got paid for that. These are just 2 examples in one school system. The majority of school systems have at least one teacher who's performing subpar. And we're still paying them even though they're not doing their jobs. If there's a factory worker and he's not doing his job, he gets fired. If a nurse isn't doing her job, guess what? She gets fired. So when a teacher doesn't do their job, why don't they get fired? From 2007 to 2010, only 88 out of 80,000 teachers in New York City got fired. In the entire state of New York, from 2006 to 2011, that's 5 years, only 32 out of 132,000 got fired for any reason at all. So why is this? There are 2 main reasons. The first is lack of replacement. Administrators are afraid that when they get rid of teachers, they won't have anyone decent to replace them, which is legitimate. The second, the second is poor evaluation processes and tenure. Basically, tenure is the status granted to an employee, usually after a probationary period, indicating that the position is permanent. So it used to be a process to prevent teachers from being fired because they had different political views from people or things like that, but it's turned into something else entirely. Usually what happens is teachers are evaluated for either 1 to 5 years. As you can see, most states chose 3 years, including Kansas, which is not enough time. They go through evaluations, which are often not done thoroughly or taken seriously. And then it's established that they get tenure, which basically means they can't get fired, no matter what happens, unless they commit a serious crime. Now, these are two simple problems, and though easier said than done, they have two simple solutions. Robin Che, in her article, Removing Chronically Ineffective Teachers, provides us with two main solutions: fixing the evaluation process and revising the tenure rules. Teachers should go through surface-level evaluations annually, and then require in-depth evaluations on a 3-year rotational basis. School systems should separate their teachers into 3 groups and rotate each group kind of like the Senate. This keeps teachers motivated and on track, and it holds the administration accountable for bad marks. We should also change tenure so that the probationary period is a minimum of 5 years and at least 10 years. So probationary firing would then be short, cheap, and a lot more convenient. We then need to separate the rules under tenure. Currently, the same old, long, drawn-out, at least $100,000 legal process is the same whether the teacher is getting fired for being ineffective or for committing a serious crime. Obviously, administration is hesitant to enter into a process that's so long and drawn out when they could just reassign teachers or give them falsely positive marks. If we change this policy, the administration will be much more ready to let ineffective teachers go. I know this sounds difficult and maybe not worth the time, but think of all the wonderful benefits. Your siblings, relatives, and children will all get a better, true education with teachers who care about the students and are passionate about what they teach. They'll also be learning instead of doing busy work, and their intelligence and confidence will raise. Talking about these changes is important, but implementing them requires your help. Talk to the students you know and find out who the ineffective teachers are, and call for their removal. Address this issue with students in the school board, and above all, be informed. Check out these 2 websites,